You've heard our open themes with listeners talking about their vocations.
New Hampshire shepherdesses love to listen to issues, etc.
Or what they're doing while listening to issues, etc.
New parents love listening to issues, etc. In the middle of the night.
We're looking for more of these elements to include in our open themes. Tell us about your vocation, hobby, or what you do while listening to issues, etc. Call the Issues, etc. comment line 24/7 at 618-223-8382. If you make a mistake, just start over. 618-223-8382. Thanks for listening, and thanks for contributing to Issues, etc. 618-223-8382.
There is a case that is making its way up and down through the federal appeals courts. A brief visit with the Supreme Court and probably another visit to the Supreme Court here in a couple years or so. It's called Louisiana v. FDA, and it has to do with telehealth abortions. It's time for an update on that case. Dr. Michael New joins us. He's visiting assistant professor of social research and political science at the Catholic University of America, senior associate scholar at the Charlotte Lozier Institute, Page Comstock Cunningham Fellow with Americans United for Life, and a columnist for National Review Online. Dr. New, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
What is telehealth abortion?
A telehealth abortion is when a woman obtains a chemical abortion without an in-person medical exam. She'll effectively go online, interface with a healthcare provider through Zoom or another online interface, and have chemical abortion pills mailed to her. And it's a real issue for pro-lifers right now because women in states with pro-life laws, states like Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, women in these states can circumvent these pro-life laws, get these telehealth abortion pills mailed to them, and obtain abortions that way. So this is a real issue for pro-lifers.
Give us a history of this case, Louisiana versus the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Sure. That Louisiana is suing the FDA. They're arguing that the existing policy regarding telehealth abortion is illegal and that women who want chemical abortions should have to have an in-person medical exam before they have one. So what happened is that back in May, the Fifth Circuit agreed to a stay, and that meant a couple of things. First, it temporarily stopped telehealth abortions, and that stay meant the Fifth Circuit thought that, one, Louisiana's legal arguments were strong, that they were likely to win, and that, two, they would suffer some damages from allowing telehealth abortions to continue until a final verdict was reached. So, very briefly, we had telehealth abortions stopped. The Supreme Court overturned that stay. They allowed telehealth to continue, and they said telehealth will continue until the Fifth Circuit reaches a final verdict or a final judgment on this case.
So what's the current state of the case?
Well, right now it's back in the Fifth Circuit, and we got some good news. They agreed to an expedited hearing, so the hearing's coming up pretty quickly. Oral arguments will begin on September 9th.
Are other states attempting to deal with telehealth abortion too?
Yeah, there's a number of other states that are working on this that, again, telehealth abortions really do undermine and weaken pro-life laws that are passed because, again, women in these states can avoid the pro-life law by just getting abortion pills mailed to them. So you have attorneys general in Florida and Texas have filed lawsuits. There's a joint lawsuit being filed by attorneys general in Missouri, Kansas, and Idaho. That's a revised lawsuit that was previously filed by the Alliance of Hippocratic Medicine. So there's many cases kind of in the works trying to stop these telehealth abortions.
What arguments has Louisiana been putting forth in the case?
Louisiana has made two arguments that I can see. First, they argue that telehealth abortions basically violate their sovereignty. Louisiana, like many conservative states, after Dobbs, enacted strong pro-life laws to protect mothers and preborn children, and telehealth abortions undermine and weaken those laws, so they have a sovereignty argument. They've also argued that their state Medicaid program has had to pay damages for women who obtained telehealth abortions and then suffered medically afterwards. So they've claimed their Medicaid program has incurred costs because of telehealth abortions. And again, they have the sovereignty argument I talked about earlier.
What arguments have the representatives of the FDA made?
The FDA's arguments are not, to be honest, terribly strong. They have simply just recycled and regurgitated some old studies which they claim show that chemical abortions are safe. Now, the problem with these studies is that most of the studies are done by people who support legal abortion. They end up in journals where the editors are sympathetic to legal abortion. And a lot of these studies don't look at telehealth. They look at chemical abortions where women are supervised. So the studies circulated by the FDA, I don't think are relevant in this case, but that seems to be the argument the FDA is making.
If Louisiana wins in the Fifth Circuit, what happens next?
Well, what would likely happen is, at least briefly, telehealth abortions would be banned, but I can guarantee that the losing party will appeal to the Supreme Court, and chances are the Supreme Court will put kind of a hold or a block on the telehealth abortion ban until they consider the case in its entirety. So I think you'll see a ban on telehealth that will last briefly, but I think the Supreme Court will probably act, put a stay on that ban, and telehealth will continue until the Supreme Court issues a final ruling.
So if it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, how likely do you think it is that the court could see things Louisiana's way?
That's kind of hard to say. You had 5 judges who ruled that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided, and that gives me hope because those same 5 judges are still on the court today. I don't think the Supreme Court is real eager to deal with abortion as an issue. They declined to hear another case a couple of years ago. Or actually, they didn't decline to hear. They said the plaintiffs lack standing, which is, I think, kind of a way of dodging this issue. But they have to deal with it at some point. You have many cases in the pipeline. They can't avoid it forever. I think pro-lifers have a pretty good chance to win. I think we have a group of judges on the court that respect state sovereignty and kind of respect the sanctity of human life. So I think there's a good chance pro-lifers will prevail, but time will tell.
What would a victory at the Supreme Court mean then?
Well, a victory of the Supreme Court would essentially mean that the existing policy of telehealth abortions is unconstitutional, that the FDA erred in allowing for telehealth to occur after the pandemic, and it would put some safeguards back in place for chemical abortions, that women who want these chemical abortions would have to have an in-person visit with a medical doctor, and it really would strengthen all the good pro-life laws we passed since the Dobbs decision.
Dr. Michael New is visiting assistant professor of social research and political science at the Catholic University of America, senior associate scholar at the Charlotte Lozier Institute, Page Comstock Cunningham Fellow with Americans United for Life, and a columnist for National Review Online. You can read his columns at our website, issuesetc.org. Click Talk On Demand Archives. Dr. New, thanks.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Pastor Michael Schurman will join us on the other side of the break to talk about campus ministry.
Here's an easy way for you to help us contend for truth in an age of anti-truth. Subscribe to the Issues Etc. podcast with YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Just type Issues Etc. in the YouTube search engine and click subscribe. For Apple and Spotify, type Issues Etc. in the search engine, hit follow, and leave us a 5-star review. Help us inform other podcast listeners by subscribing to the Issues Etc. podcast with YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Lutherans for Life provides unique gospel-centered, life issue-focused educational resources, audio-video training, post-abortion counseling, and more from a Lutheran perspective. Learn about LFL resources and forming a life team or life chapter or becoming a life advocate by calling 888-364-LIFE or by calling 888-364-5433 or visiting lutheransforlife.org. lutheransforlife.org.
Where Christianity meets culture, you're listening to Issues Etc.
Hearing is taken for granted until you don't have it. It happens at all ages. Unfortunately, some are born deaf. Others lose it gradually. The end is the same, a world of silence. The Ephatha Lutheran Mission Society serves the deaf and hard of hearing domestically and internationally. They're the only recognized service organization in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod devoted solely to the deaf of all ages. Learn more at elms-deaf.org.
Hymnody is important, very important. It's an invaluable tool that helps teach and confess the faith. Singing hymns is something we all do together on a weekly basis, yet some congregations find it difficult to sing confidently without the support of an instrument. If you are one of these congregations that can't find an organist, Church Music Solutions can help. Our substitute organist service allows your hymns and liturgy to be played on your instrument to help inspire and support your congregation's song. Keep singing with Church Music Solutions.